Hi, everyone. Welcome to a Senior Citizens Forum. I'm Janice Wood, your host. And Senior Citizens Forum is being sponsored by Benefits for You Too Insurance Services, where they specialize in Medicare insurances like Medicare supplemental plans, Medicare prescription drug plans, and Medicare Advantage plans. These plans are for people that are 65 years of age and older, or for people under the age of 65 who have certain qualifying conditions. But today we are not going to be talking about Medicare. We're going to be talking about natural disasters and property and casualty insurance. And I have my friend Justin that Bithell is going to be on, and I've known Justin for quite a while. But before I go into it, Justin and I live in California, Southern California. I happen to live in LA County, but in the area that has not been affected by the fires. But some statistics have been come out about what those costs of the fires that we just had are. And so I'm going to read you about those statistics right now. UCLA team found that the total property and capital losses range as high as $164 billion. AccuWeather estimates the total damages plus broader economic slowdown would add up between $250 billion to $275 billion. Those figures to me are just astronomical.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, they're just astronomical. I am also going to bring up to show you, if you're looking at this and you live in another part of the United States, a map for 2024 that is going. Justin.
Well, thank you.
Welcome back to a Senior Citizens Forum. You've been on here before.
Yes.
Yeah, and one of the things I know your life as a what they call it, property and casualty, P&C,
hmm
they call it,
Home
'cause
and home and auto is
home and
probably
auto.
the
Okay,
yeah. Most people don't know what property and casualty is. So home
right.
home and auto insurance as opposed
But
to health insurance or life insurance, right?
yes, I know in my lifetime, when I started with insurance, I also had my property and casualty homeowner and auto license, and it's a competitive market.
It's getting less competitive right now.
I was going to add that it's getting less competitive. Well, I know my stepdaughter lives in one of those areas, and I'm waiting for her to be calling me up and saying, "What do I do now? Okay, am I
Yeah.
have any insurance?" Right?
Yeah. No, it's getting interesting, and obviously these fires and other climate disasters like your screen showed above. That's it's making it more interesting every day.
Yeah, so I know we were supposed to do this show about a month ago,
Hmm.
and you were like knee deep in claims,
Fires. Yeah.
fire
Yeah.
claims.
Constant calls. Do I have fire insurance? My house just burned down. What do I do? Those types of things.
I
Yeah.
mean, I would find that the whole thing probably was just heartbreaking.
Yeah. I mean, we make sure to do a good job for our clients, right? So our clients, it was more reassuring than anything, but still it was, it's just a lot, you
Yeah,
know.
it is a lot. So I mean, when you're talking to these people, I mean, and I know they've lost everything. They've lost the clothes that are on their back. They've lost the
Hmm.
clothes. One thing I always think of, like, oh my God, if something happened and I had a fire, how am I going to replace those pictures? Because I happen to be a person that has pictures that are over 100 years old from my family.
Mm.
You can never replace that. It doesn't matter how much insurance you have.
Mm.
Those things cannot be replaced.
No, but a lot of people have digitally converted them and put them on a Google Drive or whatever, so it's in the cloud. And
You
and
hope they've done that.
sorry.
I hope they've done that. I mean,
Yeah, so that's becoming less of a concern, or at least it seems. Um, so, but you need to have a plan in place for if the worst happens, everything financially that needs to be replaced, right?
so I think that what you're mentioning right now, and may it be a fire, may it because we're in California, may it be an earthquake, and we seem to be
Could
having a lot
be.
of those lately. Okay, but they haven't done a lot of damage that I know.
Hmm.
Okay, but if you live in different parts of the country, we're hearing a lot about flooding.
So yeah.
Yeah, because I kept
Or
saying, we can use that water here in California. Okay.
or hurricanes as well. That's another
Well,
issue, throughout the country. Tornadoes.
yeah, absolutely. Tornadoes. I think there's so many different types of disasters out there.
Hmm.
So having a plan in place, like you were saying, I think that's real important.
Right, and it obviously depends on your specific circumstances, right? If you're at the top of a big hill, probably don't need to worry about flood insurance.
Right. And I have a
Yeah.
sister-in-law that lives in Florida, and not this last year, but the year before, a big hurricane came through. And for some reason, the builder built on the hill in her complex, and she said she felt like she was an island surrounded by water.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she said it didn't even go into the garage just because of the way the builder built these townhouses.
Really?
And it was just like, it was interesting because she was like, oh my God. Okay. And
Yeah.
yeah, you know, she didn't, nothing really happened. And you're talking to me and reminding me I got to give her a call. Okay. Showed me something as of today. Okay. And that when I'm talking about making copies of pictures that are 100 years old,
Yeah.
that I need have her do. And I just think it's just real important before they go into hurricane season that they do that.
Right.
Yeah, because I don't want to lose. I mean, I want those pictures and put them up in the cloud. But we're talking pictures, but there's other things that need to be
Hmm.
put up into the cloud, and that's important. And that, to me, that would be if you had a will and trust or your insurance papers. Even
Hmm.
though I know I can call my trusty insurance agent and say, hey, you can get me that information. But she should have that information available in the cloud.
She should, and if not, her insurance agent, should have it or whatever,
Right. Yeah.
you know.
So, but there's more documentation that needs to be in there. But it's a shame because there can be priceless things like artwork that you're losing.
Hmm.
You can't do that. Now I see behind you, you've got a great mirror.
Yeah, you can see that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess you can.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a Venetian mirror from my wife's family.
right. But it's beautiful. So I'm thinking that is an heirloom that you can't replace.
No, no, you really couldn't.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, so as far as that goes, yeah, that is almost a whole other show in and of itself. Where fine arts, jewelry, even things like cameras, collectibles, comic books, baseball cards, things like that, can all be insured under their own floaters. I mean, almost you could do an entire show on that, honestly. Um, but those are all important things, right? So you have to, it really does depends on your circumstances, but that can actually be attached to your homeowner's insurance as a floater that's for that specific item or items,
but that's
even
all.
tools.
Yeah, but that's all part of the loss that these people are going through.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely, and a floater is a great way to handle those things, because what's nice about, like, when you're talking about fine art, jewelry, these things that are irreplaceable, if you have a floater on it, on that specific item, that also covers mysterious disappearance. So let's say you don't even know what happened,
Right.
right? You were just on vacation and that ring that you had just isn't there anymore. Did you lose it in the ocean? Did the cleaning lady take it? You have no idea. It's still covered.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go back to the disasters, and in the disasters, I know we heard a lot about looters. So does that
Hmm.
the insurance company cover what the looters? I mean, how do you know if it was gone in a fire or a looter took it? That would be a mysterious
Oh
disappearance.
dear God! I mean, I can only imagine the claims now. Haven't come across that one yet, but I can just see the insurance companies fighting amongst each other. No, no, no! It's this, not that. But whenever it's under evacuation orders, it's usually it'll be covered by like in the case of a wildfire, it'll be covered by the wildfire
Okay.
coverage.
I mean, that's just like, I mean,
Because there's no way to know that, right? Like, your house burns
yeah,
down in a wildfire, and it turned out that somebody looted 5 minutes before your house burned down. How would they know that, right? It's just going to be covered by the wildfire,
yeah, they wouldn't know. They wouldn't know.
right?
But we were just hearing so much about looting going on in those areas that
Yeah, that's a shame, isn't it?
yeah, it's tragic because to take advantage of people that have lost so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, and meanwhile, the evacuation orders, they're not allowed to go back into their place. The insurance
right,
companies can't even assess until the evacuation orders are lifted.
right.
Um, which can be a big source of frustration for people. But um, there is a insurance policy coverage called loss of use,
Okay,
and so while you're out of your home, that can actually be covered by your insurance. Um, so that can ease some of the concerns. But again, insurance doesn't wave a magic wand, right? It is taking care of things from a financial standpoint
okay.
only, right?
So I mean, I know it's important that it's taken care of from a financial standpoint. So I mean, immediately I would think it's finding a place to stay.
Hmm. And that was a big issue for some of these people. I mean, we were having hotel rooms 2 hour plus drives away, during these wildfires.
I can see that because one, you had to be out of the area.
You
because
had
you,
to be out of the area to begin with, so everything that was even remotely close was ruled out, and then everything that was like just slightly out of the area, that was all taken up within minutes, right? And you just kept on going out further and further and further, you
yeah,
know.
I would
But
see.
then somebody lives in Pasadena. Well, I guess people that aren't local wouldn't know necessarily, but you live in Pasadena and you work nearby Pasadena, and maybe you got a 15-minute commute or something like that. But now all of a sudden, now you got a 2 hour and 15 minute.
Right. Well, one of the
Yeah,
things I saw, I drive up and down Pacific Coast Highway a lot. Okay. And where I drove along Pacific Coast Highway, we were not in the fire. It's not in the fire area. And for a long time, I would see this condo that was up for lease. And when the fire was going on, all of a sudden I saw it was leased.
imagine that.
Imagine that. So I'm not even going into hotels. You're going to go and look for a permanent place because if you have children, which I'm sure the biggest percentage of the people out there that were affected by these fire had children that still were going to school. You had to get them back into school. I mean, it was like their school records were burnt down.
Yeah,
Some of the schools were just gone. I mean, it was like,
literally gone, literally gone. Yeah, I'm actively involved in my kids' scouts program, and one of the other leaders with me, he went to Palos Verdes High School, and so that
yeah,
that burned down, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah,
So it's like, what happens to them now? I mean, it's the immediate, you don't realize how much there is to the immediate.
right.
I mean, besides, I think buying clothes all of a sudden.
Hmm. And this, going back to that loss of use, this
Yeah,
actually depends on the type of coverage you have for loss of use. So there's three different ways that the insurance companies can calculate it. The one I try and push people to get is what's called additional living expense. And so that covers any additional living expenses, not just your, rental on the condo, whatever, 20 minutes away. Like if you're or a hotel stay or whatever for a week or two, or any of that kind of stuff. It covers if you're in a hotel for a while until you can find something month to month, and you're using a lot of laundry services because your hotel room doesn't have a washer dryer. That's covered. If you now have a 45-minute commute when you used to have a 15-minute commute, that extra gas is covered, and everything that's additional living expenses that beyond your ordinary would be covered. The worst, going the opposite way, is fair rental value. And that just means, okay, your home, you could have rented it out for 2000 a month, you'll get 2000 a month, figure it out.
yeah. So
You
you're
know.
going to have to pay the difference. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah, in that case, the fair rental value, absolutely. You're just getting the rent with the rental value of what your home would have been pre-disaster.
Free.
And that's it, that's all. And any of the surge pricing on rentals and everything else that take place, it's all you're out of pocket. Any additional living expenses would be all out of pocket on you.
Okay, so if you paid $5,000, if you would rent your place for $5,000 a month,
Mhm.
then you can get the equivalent of that. Is that what
So all right, so now here's a funny story,
okay, love story.
because I know your audience is nationwide. So obviously with these wildfires, it became all hands on decks for the claims adjusters, right?
Oh, well, yeah.
And so you throw out the number $5,000 a month because that seems like a reasonable number to you living in LA County, right? Um, so there were claims adjusters from rural Pennsylvania or Oklahoma or Wisconsin or whatever, and the, the these people whose houses burned down, would be talking to them, and it's like, okay, well, you know what, I'm sure we can find something for $4 or $5,000 a month or whatever, and they're like, absolutely not. That is outrageous. We're not renting you a mansion.
Don't you understand? I just lost a mansion. Yeah.
So yeah, I had to get on the phone with a couple of them and just be like, so about that, that's actually a reasonable expenditure in this area. You might want to go onto Zillow and find out what it costs out here before you talk to the clients and upset them.
It's
So
not Arkansas.
yeah, it's not Arkansas, it's not rural Oklahoma.
No.
This is Pacific Palisades and Pasadena. It's a
Pasadena.
little bit more expensive.
Uh, it doesn't matter where you live in LA County, it's going to be more expensive.
Yes, yes. But anyway, so once the situation was calmed down, I got a good laugh out of that one.
Yeah, but that was, it wasn't humorous to the
Not
insured.
at the time. Oh no, no, no. It was definitely not humorous.
Oh,
And like it was just a misunderstanding. It took just a couple minutes to sort out, but um yeah, there was a handful of clients that were under the impression like our insurance would only cover just a very tiny amount of rent, and it's like, no, 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 no. That's This person just thinks that that's a reasonable expenditure, and
well,
doesn't understand the area.
I'm sure we appreciated those agents, those claims adjusters coming in and helping us out at that time.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
And
but
they
farmers footed the bill on their rent when they were out here and everything. Like they had no idea what it costs out here.
no, especially if you've never been out here.
Yeah, they just had no clue. Just totally in over their heads. So
Yeah,
got that sorted out. It took just a couple minutes, and
yeah.
then we had a good laugh.
But that didn't help the person that just lost their property and lost everything.
And is getting antagonized by the claims adjuster. No, it did not.
I'm sure by the time they did their second adjustment, they learned quickly.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, like I said, it was just a few minutes of frustration, and then a good laugh.
Yeah, no. But in losses, when the claims adjusters go out there, I mean, not only did people lose their homes, they lost their vehicles.
Oh my goodness, yes. Luckily not in my agency personally, but yeah, my understanding, there's a couple insurance companies that focused and a lot of focus on insuring most of the cars in those areas, and they are overwhelmed not with the home owner's insurance, but with the car insurance
With the
claims. Because I
car,
mean, some of these cars, especially in Pacific Palisades, I mean, these are hundreds of thousands of dollar cars,
but you're also
right?
talking
That
about
that burn down. I mean, they're not writing tiny little checks, and they're writing tens of thousands of them.
yeah, but you're also talking about people who, especially in the Palisades, that have collectibles.
Yeah, and as long as that's insured. So, you need a floater for that. Like I said, that's almost a whole another episode.
Yeah,
But
but I
but
just
a lot
wanted
of
to
times
touch
people
on that.
don't do that. That's really, really good insurance to have, fairly inexpensive. And it covers everything, including mysterious disappearance, which is, you know, so like if like we had this one client, she did not want the floater, but she had a handful of original pieces from postmodern classics.
Okay,
Um, and she still does not know what exactly took place. Did like somebody who had a key come in, or was the burglar that good? But like, there's no damage. There's no like clear break in. It's just they're gone,
okay,
right? but that's that. But if it, but fine arts is, if you don't have it specifically listed as, as a separate item that's been appraised by an appraisal or whatever, the insurance company's not going to write a check for, $4 million for this, original Warhol or whatever. Like that's just not going to happen.
So, like, if you have a limited edition prints,
Hmm.
would that be covered?
Yeah, you have Superman, first edition and mint condition or something like that. That should absolutely go on a floater. You have to pay for an appraisal. It has to be agreed upon value, based off of what the appraiser says, and then you're good. Because
So,
now it's agreed upon. You own this exact piece, and it's worth this much money.
so my curiosity is, in all these disasters, how many of these people did that?
It's not as common as it should be. It's probably the most underutilized part of insurance in the industry.
Okay. Because if you're sitting there with these priceless possessions
Hmm.
and you don't want, okay, I don't want to insure it because it's so expensive, but then you lose it.
Right.
It's
And the insurance on that particular piece, it depends on where it is.
yeah,
Right. If you're in a super high fire area, the insurance is going to be more than if you're not. Right, because there's a good chance that that thing burns down in a fire.
right.
you know so it's all relative as to how expensive it is and everything else. But if you have a good floater, it will cover it regardless of where it is in the world. It go with you on vacation. You can ship it across the world, looking to sell it at some auction house or whatever, and it's covered as if it's in your house,
Okay.
in a
But it
storage unit, whatever, doesn't matter.
doesn't matter. Okay. Because once it's destroyed by fire,
Mhm.
by earthquake or flood or wind damage, I don't think in California we're going to see wind damage, but other parts of the country, if you live in a hurricane area, you're definitely going to see wind.
Well, I mean, we have winds. We have winds in California.
Yes.
Nothing like a hurricane, but I mean, we
No.
have the Santa Anas. We have some pretty strong wind events that
But,
that will cause damage, a
yeah.
lot of damage.
Well, that's where those wildfires were from the winds. I mean,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah, but the winds didn't really cause that much damage. It was the fire
it was the
being
fire.
blown, being blown by the winds. Granted,
Right.
and especially in Pacific Palisades, it was the palm trees, believe it or not.
Oh, I
Eh,
totally believe it because I read, oh, this is many years ago. I read that
mhm.
California should not have palm trees because they're not
Good.
natural to the environment
Yeah.
and they dry out very easily
Hmm.
and they take a lot of water.
They it would depend on the palm tree. Some palm trees are more desert and some are,
Yeah,
um, but
but
anyway, yeah, the palm trees, because I always thought, well, they're so high up there, they're not much of a fire risk. And what it actually ends up happening is those leaves, no matter how high they are up there, catch fire. They catch an ember, they catch fire, and then as they're burning, the leaves will catch in the wind and act like a sail and blow to the next house over. I would venture a guess, and this is just a guess, that's probably what happened in Lahaina as well.
right. Oh yeah, I would think that that's what happened in Lahaina. But here they were talking
But I
about
saw video of it happening in Pacific Palisades. I did not see video of it happening in Lahaina.
okay, but they were showing the embers through
Mhm.
the winds and how far they traveled and it was like 10, 20 miles.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
Okay.
crazy, and so that's an interesting little fact about, at least from my personal experience with these wildfires, is they have fire ratings that go from a score of 0 to 30. Okay, and obviously, if you're anywhere near 30, this is a very very high likelihood of wildfire. Um, but actually, it's really hard to insure in even if you have a fire line score of 3 or above. It's really hard, if not impossible, to get insurance on.
Okay. So are you
Are
talking about, let me see if I understand what you're saying.
okay.
Okay.
Sorry,
So you're saying like if I live in a specific area, it's scored like
it's
from
scored
1 to 5. I mean, I'm just
one
making up
through 30,
one through,
0 through 30.
okay, zero to,
So zero through 30. Basically, a 3 to a 6 would be considered a moderate to a high fire area. Anything above 6 is really considered a severe fire area. Okay, so I don't know why they go all the way to 30, because by the time you're at 6, you're kind of out. But all of the homes that burned down in my agency were fire line 0.
whoa.
Yeah, and it's because those embers caught fire and traveled further than the insurance company thought was possible.
I mean, that is like very scary.
Yeah.
I mean, because it was like, well, the whole thing was scary. I mean, it was funny when those fires started the day before. I happened to have a cousin, he does for a living. They predict fires.
Okay.
So so he got so he gets on the line and he says, Janice, LA County is at the highest for a fire area. This is Sunday. Monday, the whole place blew up.
Jeez,
And he's going, you got to
that's
be
not funny,
careful.
but it is kind of funny.
And I'm looking at the map, okay? And it's, I think from Torrance, you have to know where we live. Torrance is like towards the ocean,
Mhm.
and I live on the close to the beach, but nowhere near where the fires were. I was in a white area. Everything
Oh, gee,
around me,
don't say that.
yeah, everything
No,
around me.
no. The white area, that doesn't sound right.
Well, no, it showed it white. There was the red
It
area.
showed it white as opposed to red. I
Fire.
know. I get what you're saying. It just doesn't sound right.
Oh, I know. I don't mean it racially. Talking, it meant a white area for the fires. I wasn't in a red area, and I'm not talking.
You were not in a red area.
I was
Yes,
not in,
let's
and
go
I'm not
that way.
talking Indians. I was not on the fires. Red.
On the fire map, you were not in the red zone.
I was not.
You were in the white zone.
I was in a white zone that went all
Yeah.
the way down to Newport Beach. Okay,
Okay.
so it was like, okay, all right. It's very, you know, it's like I'm in a safe area, but it was still eerie because you could smell the fire.
Hmm.
Okay, when you looked outside, everything was orange
Yeah.
because of the smoke. And I mean, when I'm talking orange, I would be like getting the reflection that was coming into the house through all the smoke that was blowing this way.
Yeah.
Gave
Yeah.
it
It was
everything.
gross. It was gross.
It's gross.
Even if you were nowhere near it, the air was just gross.
I mean, I was like 40 to 50 miles away, depending upon which fire you were talking about.
Hmm.
So it was like it was just gross. Now I have a girlfriend that lives in Madera County, and I don't even know how to get fire insurance. So Madera County would be right next to, right between Fresno and Yosemite.
Yes. So, as far as how they would get insurance, that would all be done through the California Fair Plan. So the state of California has a plan for wildfire zones,
Hmm.
where the insurance companies would not give insurance for the same reason why you would never give health insurance to somebody who is already diagnosed with cancer.
Well, right now, that's not the way as it stands today.
I know,
There's
I
no
know.
pre-existing conditions.
There's
So,
no pre-existing condition. So I mean, yeah, all right, life insurance then. Let's do that.
yeah, right.
Yeah, you would never give life insurance to somebody that's already been diagnosed with cancer, right? Until they beat it, then maybe you'd get them again. But it's they're not insurable for life insurance while they're fighting the cancer,
Right.
right? Same type of deal with these wildfire zones, right? If you're in that type of propensity for wildfire, it's not insurable.
So you're going to be looking at that being like a 4 area because you were talking about the scoring. So that would be like a 4
Madera County, I'm familiar enough with the area. That would probably be somewhere in the 12 to 15 fire
category.
line scores.
Okay. So, but if I lived in Ventura County, okay,
Hmm.
all right, which Ventura County was on fire, okay,
Yes.
yeah, okay, but I lived in, let's say, a different city. I know my stepdaughter kept getting things that she needed to evacuate.
Hmm.
And right before the fires, I even actually called you to say she was going to lose her insurance, and you said
Hmm.
you could help her out. And then ended up that I don't want to name the insurance company said that she could stay. That it was
Well, yeah, they weren't given a choice.
yeah,
The Department of Insurance said that all those not non-renewals due to fire lines had to be postponed.
right. But
So she'll probably have an issue this time next year.
yeah, so she will have. I think it's going to be a major issue because the I just talked about at the beginning of the show the $250 billion to
That's
275.
entire damage. That's including economic damage
Right.
and things. That's not what the insurance companies are going to be writing a check for.
Oh, okay. So are the insurance companies going to, they've had to lose, not only have the people that have been insured, who have the insurance to cover it, now the insurance companies have lost a lot of money.
Well, yeah, and there's two companies in particular. So California Fair Plan,
Right.
being the one that writes in those types of areas, as the last resort. They're in. Well, I mean, they don't have any money. They're assessing other insurance companies to be able to come up with the money to be able to pay out those claims. And then State Farm was also in that area. They were trying to get they were trying to cancel as many policies as they could, but they hadn't gotten around to it yet. So they those two companies are in some pretty bad financial positions right now.
Yeah, because I know with my stepdaughter, she's going to have a horrible problem when it comes to next year when she has to renew her insurance.
She probably won't be able to renew her insurance, but I we can figure out an option. There's always an option, even if it involves the fair plan.
Okay.
Now the problem with the fair plan though is it doesn't cover everything. It covers wildfire, and it covers a handful of other random things. It covers wind damage, it covers hail damage, covers lightning strikes. If an airplane were to crash into the house, it would cover that. Smoke damage, vandalism, all sorts of weird things. What it does not cover is the things that you're more than likely to use your homeowner's insurance for. It doesn't cover if you were to get into a lawsuit. Doesn't cover if your dog bites someone. Doesn't cover if you had a break in, or if you had a pipe burst and some water damage.
Okay.
Doesn't cover any of those types of things.
All right.
So you need actually two policies to do what most other people who don't need the fair plan can do in one policy.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, because insurance is so complicated as it is.
Hmm.
I mean, I deal
Yeah,
with one area of it, and then there's the life insurance part of it, which is complicated. And then you have the homeowners, which, with all these different natural disasters that are happening, are being affected. And now it's going to become more complicated in that area.
right, right. Um, yes, it'll get more complicated. And it should be interesting to see what happens with the fair plan,
With the
right? Because they're not charging enough to be in these types of areas, and so do they raise rates dramatically? Do they raise it a little bit? They don't have any reserves. And they don't have any reserves because they're constantly paying out every time there's a fire, pretty much anywhere in the state. Right. So every time they think that they can get reserves, there's a fire in Shasta or there's a fire near Lake Tahoe or whatever, and they're writing out more checks.
So I know you don't have a license for other states, but
No.
if you were hit by, okay, if you were hit by a fire in Colorado, would that would other states have something similar to the FAIR plan?
Um, some states do, some states don't.
Okay.
So like I don't know about Colorado. Nevada does not have anything in
Okay.
place. Um, and for the most part, Nevada doesn't really have any fire areas, right? For the most part, but there is an entire section that's bordering like Tahoe and north, that's right up against the Sierras, it's pretty much impossible to get insurance at the moment.
Okay. That's
Like
interesting.
outside of Reno, like Incline Village and Lake Tahoe, if you're familiar with that area, those types of things.
Yeah. Well, that would make sense because like Tahoe is all forests around.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's very.
Yeah, but they didn't make a Nevada fair plan or whatever, just for this small little area.
But what if you live in a state that gets hit by, and I know you may not know the answer to this, but if you live in a state that has hurricanes and tornadoes, would you know if they have extra?
Yeah, so that's the Gulf Coast states going up to the Atlantic seaboard, like
Yeah.
North Carolina, basically, and south. Um, so those states, actually, I do know a little bit about that. Those states have separate deductibles for wind and hail, and that are much much higher than what they are in California. And then there's a separate deductible from that for if the storm has a name. So if it goes from, oh, there's a rainstorm coming in, to tropical storm Ida or hurricane this or whatever, and it gets a name, then the deductible goes from your wind and hail deductible of, say, whatever, 10, 15, $20,000, to your name storm deductible, which would be north of 75,000.
Okay. So like if you got, everybody hears the name Katrina. We all remember that
Mm-hmm.
was the first one that I remember as being a big hurricane.
Yes.
So if you get named, that means your insurance has just changed of what things qualify under.
Yes, in those areas. Yeah, they have a named storm deductible. So the storm has a name, then there's an entirely different insurance package that's in place. And if you're close to the coast, oftentimes, just like the Fair Plan does with wildfire in California, in Texas and in Florida and those types of places, there is a state-run hurricane insurance.
Okay, that's interesting. So I'm going to go back to our fires here in California.
Okay,
We've been,
that's more where my area of expertise
well,
is.
more of your, but it's good because we have other people that watch us,
Yeah, yeah.
California people. Okay, but now we were giving names to fires. Did that change things too?
No,
So that doesn't work. The fire gets a name. It doesn't change your how things.
No, no, every fire has a name, whether or not you're familiar with it or not.
Okay.
And every day when I log in, there is a list of fires, and they all have names. Um, and so for the most part, they're either too far away from you geographically, or they're too small where you didn't even know that they had a name
Right.
or didn't bother. Whereas like the Palisades fire, the fire that took out Paradise, that was actually called the Camp Fire.
Right.
Um, you know, the Eaton fire in the Pasadena Altadena
Right.
area. Like most people, just because of how recent that was, are familiar with it.
Right. And I mean, and I know Malibu was covered under the Pacific Palisades fire, correct?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And then there was, but I mean, there was a handful of other little tiny fires, and like, no, they burnt out before anybody even
Yeah. But
knew their name.
I know during that period, we also saw the Hollywood fire. I mean, it was like crazy.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was the Hollywood fire. There was another one in Agora Hills. I want to say it was called. It was named after the trailhead it started at.
Okay. But it
Um,
doesn't have the same significance it does
no,
that a
no,
hurricane would have.
no. And there is a myth out there that that insurance companies won't pay if it's arson. That is not true.
Okay.
If you have homeowners insurance that covers fire, and your house burns down, regardless of whether you were the victim of an arsonist or not, or you were caught up in a wildfire that was ultimately ruled to be a form of arson, your homeowner's insurance will pay. Whether or not they seek out any type of compensation for all the payments that they made, that's something that the courts will be sorting out years later. But they'll pay to rebuild your house in the meantime.
Okay. That's really interesting. So, like, if you had, we talked about it just real quickly, and I just want to go over it again. If you had your car got burnt down, or if you had
Mhm.
an RV, because I know these are all different types of insurances, or some people may have boats or car collections, that would be covered under a different type of insurance.
Yes. Yes, all of those, the RV, the boat, the motorcycle, the car, all of those, each and every policy they would each have their own individual auto, boat, or RV or motorcycle policies, and the coverage that would cover that is called comprehensive coverage. So there's two different line items for deductibles: comprehensive and collision. And um, so collision is if you got into an accident, right? You hit somebody, somebody hit you, that type of thing. Comprehensive covers everything else that
Okay.
that would happen to your car.
Okay. So, one of the things, because we're getting towards the end of our time, okay,
Hmm.
we have a couple of more minutes. Um, if you have any questions or any comments for Justin or myself, please, I know this is a recorded show, but we still want your comments, and we still want, if you want to reach us, I had on during my show how to reach me. Now I have posted how to reach Justin. Justin's staff, as I said earlier, is amazing to talk to. They become your friends because one of his staff become my friend. Okay. They're just really great to work with. Justin, if you're watching this and you live in another state, Justin works with is part of Farmers Insurance, so he can connect you to somebody who is just as good as he is. Okay. And would be able to help you in whatever state you're in. And I don't know what farmers. Actually, it's a good question for you to ask you. Is farmers in any other countries outside of the United States?
Farmers is owned by Zurich Insurance. So Zurich Insurance is international. Farmers itself is in the United States.
Okay. All right. So they would be able to help you out. So please feel free to contact us. Please feel free to send us comments. We love the comments. If you're watching us on Facebook, or if you're watching us on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, uh, please give us comments. We love to have it back. Or if not, please contact us on the information that I'm showing on the show. We love to talk with you. Justin, as always, we always have so much to talk about.
Yes, we do.
We both know how to talk, okay? All right. So I love having you back on the show because I know we can talk about more things that we just touched on, but not in depth. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think we know what the next time I'm on the show we need to cover is.
Yes, we do, because in about 6 to 9 months, people are going to be looking at that. What am I going to do about getting insurance?
Right.
Because and even I, in the area I live in, is going to find that the insurance is is higher than it used to be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's gone up considerably in the last couple of years.
Okay. So thank you very much for Justin for being here. And I
Oh,
know I'll
yeah.
see you
Thank you for
soon.
having me.
Thank you. It's always been a pleasure. Thank you. And everybody, have a great week and join us again next Thursday when we have a new show that is posted on E360 TV. Thank you.
Thank you.